Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody's faces. Hello, hello, hello. Wow, sorry for missing last week's. Had a little bit of a family issue. Had to deal with my mom and just could not. Sometimes working with Linda means 24/7 with Linda. She's here with me right now. God help me. I hope everybody is in good spirits. Everybody's doing well. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. First of all, I'd love to say, thank you guys so much for the great questions. It has become more and more apparent every year. I feel very lucky that I kind of dwell with really bright humans who understand that asking a question is one thing, but asking it and then actually taking the gamble to answer your own question is awesome. And I saw a lot of that in the questions today. And so I'll share some of those today and we'll go over them. And of course, if you have a question now, you guys can go ahead and leave it in the chat. And Carrie can field some of them and she'll be putting some stuff in the chat as we go with all of the stuff that we're going to cover today. So the first thing I want to cover is there's another level. We're only doing 2 level 1 instructor trainings this year. We're doing one in March on March 14th. And then the next one is, I think it's, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's September?
September.
Yes, September. So one of the things that we're working to do as a business, right now that I've got a CEO, I'm like, how can we help to grow the brand and build the awareness of the instructors? Like I have for many years now, I keep hearing Sue Hitzman is the MELT method and the MELT method is Sue Hitzman. I'm like, no. I'm a human and it's a thing, okay? Like, actually, you guys are the MELT method, right? I mean, you guys are the ones that are sharing it. It's not just me. And so together, we are the MELT method, is the community that we've amassed. And you guys are doing great work. I mean, I see so many of the amazing things that you guys post on our Instructor Connect on Facebook. And it's kind of the thing that, keeps me going is seeing the development of what you guys are doing for your own practice. So one of the things that I've never really talked about, and I think I might have mentioned it on the last call, and I'm going to mention it again, is one of the things that I try to do is to try to give you guys opportunities to generate income that's a little bit more passive, like having an affiliate link, which is awesome, right? Somebody uses your affiliate link, comes over to the website and buys anything from a training on down to the hand and foot therapy balls, you get up 20% of that sale, which I think is pretty awesome. But the other thing is in the instructor training, if you refer somebody, you get $250. It's 20%, over 20% of the cost of the course. And one of the things that I would love to get some of you to consider, because we've got some really amazing instructors, and I know that you guys are capable of this. Have you guys ever considered reaching out to a local studio or a small boutique gym and hosting an intro class for their professionals? Right? It's kind of a great opportunity for you to do 3 things. One is to put you out as a leading authority on the restorative movement that is infiltrating the fitness industry today. I think 2020 with COVID really has shifted. The last time I went to the IRSA conference, they were talking about this new word called recovery and another new word that fitness apparently has never heard of. It's called wellness. I was like, whoa. This is good news for the MELT method, right? Because we are a leading agency of restorative and wellness and actually doing it on a very cutting edge aspect of neurofascial science and research. So you guys going out there as a leader of MELT and saying, I'd love to introduce MELT to your professionals and to speak in a way, it's the same intro class that you would teach the general public, but you would kind of phrase it as, we're of this industry, Pilates, yoga, whatever it is you're talking to. And it's important that we stay on the cutting edge of science and research and also application to be able to foster better relationships with our community, right? So it's just a great opportunity for you to show your leading authority and to have people in your local community go, I need to know who this person is, and ideally come and take your classes, right? The second opportunity is that, hey, if these guys register for the teacher training, you could even, if you said, hey, I even have the opportunity where I could maybe get, if you guys all come in together, I could probably get a group discount for you guys and even pass a little bit of more savings. And I would give you the $250 referral fee per person that registers, right? So I'm looking to generate income for you, but also the awareness that you're out there. And so I would think about that. You know, the third thing about it is just, it's a really great opportunity to just generate revenue faster than just doing an intro class to the general public. I mean, if you do the math, it's just a better business model for you guys. So if you feel that you have a capacity to teach an intro class and you've been teaching intro classes, you got it like the back of your hand, I would really start thinking, what can we do to help you get out there in front of leaders and educate them as to what they don't know and that they should become trained in this method, because this could transform their community. And I know some of you guys will be like, well, why would I do that in my local community? Then I'd have competition. Actually, that's the thing, is if that's your fear, I would go from a place of love instead, because fear messes stuff up anyway. But if you come from a place of love, that you have to realize the more people in your community that are teaching it, the bigger the buzz in the community, everybody starts to know about it. And so they're going to come and find you. So if you're a good business person and you don't fear growing your business, then if you come from a place of love, people will come. I will guarantee it. So I'm just putting that out there. Second thing I want to talk about, level 5 starts February the 28th, which, is that tomorrow? No. Is that next week? I can't even remember. But
next week.
February the 28th. I feel like it should be March by now, but it is still February. So February the 28th, level 5 starts. We've already got a fantastic group of the instructors and the teacher assistants forming. So the idea of level 5 is to not only get you guys really at the top level of neurostrength and refining some of the standing techniques and some of the more challenging neuro core techniques, but it also seasons you. I'm really looking for more TAs to come into the teacher trainings, because this is definitely another way to generate an income being a TA and kind of coming back through the course, right? You will kind of shock yourself as to how much you really know by doing teacher assisting. And I'm sure any of our TAs would attest to that, is like, it kind of wakes you up because you're always learning something new. I hear that 1,000 times every time we go through a course. One of the TAs invariably says, yeah, I learned something new from Sue today, right? So always something new, something sharper, something more refined. I'm definitely not a static being, so always trying to add better ideas into your mind. Third thing I want to talk about, Melt On Demand Connect. I'm kind of excited about this. We kicked off a Melt On Demand Connect program, and we're incubating it right now. And I did a test run with a woman who just joined Melt On Demand. She was in severe pain for a long time, has been to chiropractors, acupuncturists, PTs, and nothing really helped. And somebody told her about Melt. She started doing Melt, and she was like, I instantly, over the course of a couple of weeks of just doing the getting started, I really felt these amazing changes in my body, and I feel so much better already. So I did an interview with her for 15 minutes, which is kind of what we're promoting. And I got to connect with her. I got to hear her story. And then I selected specific melt maps and kind of helped to guide her on Melt On Demand. And this is one of these ways that will help our community grow, because connecting to the community on Melt On Demand and helping people navigate the site is like part of it, so that they stay learning about Melt on the app. But it's also a way for people who engage in an app to actually know that we have live instructors who are doing Zoom calls and doing one-on-one, and can really help to refine and home in on what somebody needs, especially for people who are in pain who aren't really sure what to do. It becomes a new service for us. And I think it's a really great way to get more people who are on Melt on Demand engaged with instructors so that you can share it. So we've got this happening. We selected a few people who are doing this with us, and hopefully we have some success, and hopefully some of you guys will also want to engage in that soon. Finally, Melt on Demand has 500 videos, and it's all me. And Carrie came on this past year, and Hallie came on this past year, and Kim and Amanda. We brought 4 new instructors. And it was so exciting to see the numbers of the most popular videos and how many thousands of hours of watch time. It turns out my videos gain 93% of the viewership, but the other 7% in this short period of time are the other instructors. Carrie, do you remember how many? I think people on my videos have watched 1.5 million hours.
Yeah, it was like right around there, like 1.5 million hours or something like that.
Yeah, and Carrie's gotten like thousands and thousands. Like I think we even did it down to the minutes, like 40,000 minutes or something.
7,000 minutes or something like that.
It's amazing, right? So these guys are really watching these videos, and it's exciting. So I said, all right, we are ready now. We've got to put the other instructors on the site. So we put out an opportunity for you guys to do a Melt Move and do a video for us so that we could check your lighting and sound, and did you have the language down? And I'm again not surprised. The language for everybody was fantastic. Everybody's capacity to teach Melt who auditioned was right there. I'm like, perfect. But the lighting, the sound, we had some things that needed to be cleaned up for some. However, we are kicking this off in April. This March, I've got a hormone balancing collection with Dr. Maggie Yu that's consuming March. But in April, we've got Kim Reese, Nikki Parker, Emiko Oy, Anouk Donners, and Angeline Shaka teaching on Melt on Demand. They're our first 5 that are going to be first up in teaching classes. We had 38 instructors audition, and we're going to try to season everybody who applied in this first round, as many of them as we feel we can. We're going to start to build up our database so that everybody gets an opportunity to teach a class. And what's really cool about it is because we can track how many views, we're going to create an opportunity for a rev share. So it's not just getting paid to teach one class. You actually can make reoccurring money on the app, which is finally there for me. So I'm really excited about this actually being launched as another way to drive more people to our instructors and to get you out in front of more people through Melt on Demand. So lots of that to come. Also really cool stuff happening. So congratulations for those of you who took the courage. And hey, if you didn't do a video, it doesn't mean that, forget it, you're never going to be able to do it. Go ahead and make a Melt Move, and we'll do another round again, and you'll have another opportunity. So, don't worry, there's more opportunities to come, even if you didn't have the time to shoot one this time around. Again, more to come. Finally, Costa Rica, October 28th to November the 4th. Mark it in your calendars if you're thinking about coming. We did this a few years ago. Actually, it was in 2019, right after my husband had passed away. We went to Costa Rica, and it was pretty life-changing, I think, for me and for everybody else. The resort that we're at, Pura Vida Retreat and Spa, is beautiful. It's in these luxurious mountains in Costa Rica, and we do Melt classes. There's like kind of little workshops, eco adventures, all sorts of fun stuff, little sound healing and things of that nature. But what's interesting and an opportunity for you guys is if instructors come, and of course the general public, we already have quite a bit of people registered, but you could also, while you're there, if you have the interest to do a private session with someone, we have the opportunity to also allow you to do that. And this is a nice, great opportunity. While you're there, you paid for your time there, but now you might actually get some money on top of being there, right? So you could make a little bit of money at the event. So, if you're coming to Costa Rica, make sure that you are putting it on your calendar and registering, because as we start to really start the promotion for this, we've kind of held back until March, until first quarter was done, mostly for you guys, to see how many people would register who are instructors. But we already have a lot of general public coming, so it is going to be a nice mix. It's not going to be just instructors. I was kind of hoping that would happen, but it did not. So hopefully you guys will still join us. And again, it's October 28th to November the 4th. Two other things. The instructor newsletter. There's lots of great information in your newsletters. I don't know if you guys actually read them, but when I read them, I'm like, these are awesome. They come out every Wednesday. They're full of instructor highlights. I even put book recommendations, resources, any articles that I've read, all sorts of fun stuff. So if you're not sure if you're receiving the newsletter, then I would either check your spam or your promotions folder, or just resubscribe, right? Carrie's going to put the link in the chat right now. And after you resubscribe and you still don't receive it, then just email instructorinfo@Melt Method and we'll make sure that you get it. Finally, we want to feature you. If you've taught a great class, a workshop, you've got amazing before or after photos, or a great testimonial after a class, whatever it is, we want to feature you in not only the instructor newsletter, but the actual Melt Method newsletters. Again, my goal this whole year is to push our instructors out in front of as many people as possible, because we have a beautiful collective of very bright instructors, and it is like well timed to do it. I was hoping to do this last year, but trying to find a CEO and have the time to do all of these projects was not possible, but now it is. And so I'm really excited to get you guys out in front of people in every possible way, through social, through newsletters, etc. So I'll make sure that Carrie also puts that Melt Instructor Connect out to you guys. But if you've taught something, just send videos our way. We'd love to repost them for you and promote you in social as well. Finally, if you are in the UK or Europe, we have an instructor meeting exclusively for you guys. I want to connect you guys to Brian and our longevity fitness team. We took the time to put and it's expensive, to have a warehouse there and to try to support you guys. I'm looking for space to teach a event, again, try to build more awareness for you guys. I hear, there's a few of you that are like, we need Sue to actually come to Europe. I will come back. But we need to coordinate this and make this sensible to be able to do it. And we're going to brainstorm with Brian and see if we can come up with ideas. So again, if you're in the UK or the EU, make sure that you come on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. for your time. Okay, so now on to questions. I'm going to start with Michelle Downs. She says, one of her new clients, who's 53 years old, postmenopause, starts having burning shooting pain in her calf muscles, twitching in her thumb for 12 hours. Now it's a pulling nerve pain in her hands and feet. She's awaiting blood tests. The usual ones came back without any findings, of course. She's not on any medication, no alcohol, no caffeine, eats pretty healthy. This week she read that this could be caused by low estrogen, and that, like, as soon as I was reading, I'm like, I'm gonna guarantee this has a hormone balance problem. She started taking small amounts of oestrin, which is that gel, and she says it's improved a bit. So look, guys, this entire month on Melt on Demand, I'm doing a collection with Dr. Maggie Yu. She is all on hormone balance. And even when we think we're eating a healthy diet, most often what happens in menopause is this radical fluctuation in hormones. But yes, it's like, estrogen and testosterone and progesterone and etc. But what is also really important is that once you're even in perimenopause, you got to get your blood sugar balanced, right? The whole fat, carb, protein, kind of a mixture. There's lots of ways to test your blood sugar now. They've got like these things that you attach to yourself. I have a Lumen device where it's testing your CO2 to see if you're burning carbs or burning fats or burning proteins. So there's a lot of ways that we can back ourselves up as we aging women are moving into menopause or post-menopause. But for sure, those types of symptoms are very linked to hormone imbalance. So I would recommend that you guys, if you are in perimenopause or you think you have hormone imbalance, and actually you don't have to be in any type of menopausal state to have hormone imbalance, by the way, I would just watch the next month of Melt on Demand and have your client join us on Melt on Demand and learn some strategies specific to hormone balance. Carol Justice Gray is saying I just lost it, saying, I'm having huge changes from bringing the Bunion treatment into my regular foot treatment and wondering if I could share any thoughts about this work outside of actually dealing with bunions. She says she doesn't have them, but the changes to her foot, the groundedness, the medial thigh, like all these different things she's feeling. Look, the Bunion treatment is not just for bunions. And I've said this many times in the teacher training. The Bunion treatment has a lot to do with the relationship of your extensors of your first ray and your lateral hip. There is communication and signaling through your spiral line. And for a lot of us, it's inhibited. And so when you walk, your leg medially rotates too much, you weaken your arches, and that can, of course, contribute to bunions, but it can also lead to something called plantar fasciosis, not fasciitis. It could actually relate to fasciitis, but fasciosis is a lack of blood flow to the muscles. And that happens as we age also. Just from wearing sneakers or form-fitting shoes of any sort, the activities that we do, getting restorative blood flow to the spiral line by way of big toe motion is definitely something I would recommend for anybody. Can definitely help to strengthen your feet. And it's just a great way, again, to restore blood flow into the muscle and also restore hydration to your connective tissue. Okay. Lori Smith says, I'd like to better understand neuropathy of the plantar surface of the feet. So unless, and Lori, if you're here, you can unmute yourself. Are you asking about a Baxter's neuropathy? Because Baxter's neuropathy is a nerve entrapment syndrome that kind of ends up giving you compression of the inferior calcaneal nerve. Like entrapment of that, like entrapment neuropathy is sometimes what they call it, the tarsal tunnel. It just makes it painful. So the problem, if that's what it is it's oftentimes not, it's not diagnosed properly, and it definitely has a lot of overlapping symptoms. But if you're just talking about neuropathy in general, neuropathy actually has a big origin to the spine and the nerve roots, and then also causes a catastrophic effect in the nerve endings in the leg. And whether it's diabetes, weight, poor diet, there's lots of reasons. Hormone imbalance can cause neuropathy. Menopause can cause neuropathy. They don't really talk about it, but it definitely can. And she also says that she has a client who describes a sensation around her ankles like they're wrapped in wool. That's oftentimes a neuropic type of sensation, by the way. So from what she's saying about these things, she says she also has hip instability. Is this related? Of course. I'm sure, maybe overall hip stability, but it could possibly be tarsal tunnel syndrome would be my, initial thought of what you're describing, especially if she doesn't have a lot of pain in the calf itself. I know she has here that the sensation shifted to below her knees after she did a softball foot treatment with me. So if you feel changes in that woolly feel, that is the fluid exchange that you're creating. It's waking up sensory nerves. But this is, again, perhaps possibly tarsal tunnel syndrome, but it also could be an effect of menopause. I'm guessing she's not here. Okay. Anyway,
He's right here, Sue. I don't know
oh,
if
hi.
you know, Lori.
Any other questions on that, Lori? I don't hear you.
Oh, yeah, we can't hear you, Lori. Nope.
No. Yeah, it's kind of like a fuzzy thing. Type it in there and answer by typing. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Susan Flanagan says, when I'm teaching rinsing of the fingers, I explain the whirlpool effect of how one direction of consistent pressure pushes the fluids we stimulate with position point pressing and all the other techniques. The comment she often gets is, but we're pushing away from the body. That's kind of hilarious, actually. How can you push away from your body? You're pushing through the body, right? First of all, we're not pushing anything away. We are a closed cell environment, by the way, okay? So my comment back, she says that my comment back is that the connective tissue is a beautiful web throughout the entire body, and by creating this whirlpool, the fluid flow doesn't end at the fingertip, but rather wraps under and around and circulates back into the body like a whirlpool. Is this an accurate description? I feel like I could explain this better. I don't know. Yes, I could call it like a whirlpool, but you know, you really have it. Okay, the interstitial fluids in your lymph drainage, you move around the fingers. So there's always fluids moving around the fingers, and it's channeling back up the deep aspects of your palmar surface, and it's coming back throughout the body. If it didn't happen that way, guys, we would have a teeny, teeny, tiny head, gigantic hands and feet full of fluids. Every time we stood up, we'd have to lay down like this all day long just to keep the blood circulating in our body. But we have this circulatory system that's constantly moving the fluid flow through our body. So the thing is, as you push, the fluids are running through the body. It's a closed cell environment. We're not pushing away so that the fluids squeeze out of our nails and go into the ether, right? We're pushing and it's circulating. So think of it like it's not just the fluids in the local region. You're creating what they call a piezoelectric charge, right? Collagen acts like a superconductor, and the fluids in your fascia are bound water, not bulk water like you drink, right? So there's a charge that happens to it. It's a crystalline matrix, right? So it actually creates frequencies. So as you push down your fingers, it is certainly igniting the cyclical motion, because I'm not just pushing down my fingers, I'm pushing up the palm. So I'm getting two things done at the same time to draw more of that hydration to the joints, to the absolute distal aspects of my body, because this is where we lose fluid flow. It's the end of the road, right? And so if we get stuck stress in other joints, these larger joints, by the time fluid comes to our hands, we don't have the abundance, which is why your rings don't fit as you get older, why we have all of these issues in arthritic conditions in our hands and feet before anywhere else, right? So you're spot on, Susan. You're great. And it's a vortex. You could think of it like a vortex, right? Like a whirlpool, a vortex type of emotion. It's actually backpedaling the spin, right? So as you push a line of fluid flow, the fluid is dispersing its force and energy laterally. It's not going with you, it's expunging this way around the body, which is why we have a circulatory system in the first place. Lori Officer says that she's having a challenge in getting the very flexible yoginis to feel the two-directional lengthening in bent knee press and hip to heel press. She says, I think with bent knee press, they are bending at the waist, and with hip to heel, they're not maintaining the pelvic tilt. But since they're so flexible, it's hard for me to see. Okay, here's the thing about dancers. Hypermobility is a real thing. And oftentimes, they are weak as hell in their plantar, their plantar flexors, right? So let me say that again. Their dorsiflexors, they are weak. Their plantar flexors are really locked short, right? Because they're on toe. So they're so weak here that all they do is hyperextend their knee when they straighten it out, and you're missing it, okay? So I'm gonna do this on video so that you guys are getting a sense of this. I've talked about this on Melt on Demand in classes and things like that. If you were to use the band, it's always a great way to go. You put the band around the sole of your foot, you have them come down, and the first thing I would look at is the hyperextension of their knee before they come up, okay? Let me actually make sure that I'm fully in this frame here. So the important aspect of this is that you are extending your knee not just by way of your quadriceps, which is how most people do it, because they are weak. They cannot dorsiflex, right? Look at a dancer and ask them to dorsiflex. They actually don't have it because they're weak. They cannot contract the muscles appropriately to do it. So a good thing to do with them is have them grab onto the band, pull the band towards them. They could even pull it as they go, and you ask them to repeatedly flex their foot. And if their knee starts to bend, or they hyperextend as they do it and they have very little range, you know where the problem is coming from, is their shin, okay? So our goal here is to get them to pump and keep the knee straight, but not hyperextended. I am not locking out. I'm not using my quadricep either. I'm not using my front thigh at all. It's loosey-goosey because I'm using the band to hold my leg. I'm supporting it. So I flex, I flex, I flex. I'm feeling the burn in the front of my shin, and I'm going to use that as I tilt my pelvis to try to draw the sensation down my leg, and I'm going to increase that sensation by flexing. And then look at their ankle and watch how they lose the dorsiflexion. They physically will lose it. They will go flat. And it is, again, because of weakness. So why can't I feel fascial tension? Is simply by way of weakness, because you got to use muscle to lengthen fascia. So if you are weak because you are so overly extended, right? Look at how their feet are always like this. They are elongated and under tension all the time, so they cannot contract efficiently. So that's hip to heel press. Bent knee press, most often with them, they are not really keeping a very good 4-point square. They tend to side bend, and they actually are looking for something that feels more like a stretch. And again, what they are is weak in some aspects of the lower fibers of glutes. Okay, so I'll show you that one, what that might look like, right? So I would slow them down, and I would look at 3 things. 1, 4-point square. Are they keeping here? Let me do it with this side, right? So number 2 is find the ball of your big toe, find the outside of your foot, and find your heel, right? So that your foot is right underneath you. And before they pull here, get them to try to watch what I'm doing, 2 things at once. I am tucking my pelvis, and I am energizing my knee over my toes. I am using muscles to lengthen fascia, okay? So if I am weak in the lower fibers of glutes, when I do it, this is what's going to happen. Can you see where I went? Right? I'm gonna act upon my ribs to energize my knee over my toes. It's just not the move we're asking. I don't have a problem with it, just not right now, I tell them, okay? I get that they're always looking for this, but no, we want to get a wide rib wall. We want to plant the foot onto the ground and energize the knee over the toes. Again, keep your eye right here as I do it. I am maintaining my 4-point square. Once I understand this, I tuck. I say, hey, are you starting to feel work in the back of your leg? If they say yes, great. So now I just tie the line of the tuck more, check in with their 4-point square, no side bending, and that should activate a little bit more of that fascial tension. Tell them that we're not looking for stretch. We're not looking for that tautness like we do, that they've been trained to do when they do all of their dancing, okay? It's not a stretch. I hope that helps you with that. Did I make sense on this? Was this enough to understand? Yeah? Okay. I have been somehow, hang on. Sorry. Google wants me to verify it's me, sorry. All of my questions.
It logged you out.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to read the next one? Lori actually typed in something. You want me to read it to you?
No, I have it here.
Okay.
I'll come back to you, Lori. Carol Justice, Lori pops up. Okay, Lori Smith. No diagnosis of tarsal tunnel. Oh, is this the one that she just typed in? Yeah. Okay, so no diagnosis of tarsal tunnel syndrome. Not heard of the sensation that she describes of wool wrapped around her ankles. Also suspect she may have some restless leg symptoms. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Lori, look, ladies, I am sorry, but we are up against a real problem with hormone regulation and hormone balance. It's a very, very big industry now, right? Everybody's pushing a new pill, a new cream, hormone replacement, pellets. You don't know what to believe anymore, right? I mean, it's confusing. And now that I'm going into this menopause, I'm in menopause, I guess, sort of, not really, but kind of. My body is saying that's not what's happening. But as I start to look for real valid information on this topic, it's not there. I'm not finding any. And there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of medicines that do certainly work, right? Hormone replacement therapy for some people work great, but a lot of people have a higher prevalence to cancer. There's all sorts of things, right? And listen, like, I want to say this out loud, like, for myself, menopause is not a disease, right? It's like nobody was freaking out, I guess, when I was going through puberty, right? But it's just a natural stage of life. But if we can work with our bodies and get our hormones balanced, that's the important thing. And somebody who says to me, oh, I already eat a good diet is bullshit, because I eat a really good diet. But you know what? My blood sugar levels were all like this because however my body assimilates carbohydrates, it isn't working for my body at this age. I'm suddenly all over the place. So now it's about learning how to get my blood sugar more balanced. If you have any type of restless leg syndrome, neuropathies, pain, joint pain as you're getting older, that melt isn't kicking or any of that, I would be looking to your hormones, period. So again, this month is going to be a really insightful one with Maggie. Ed, I love this question. Ed just says, the toe lift assess after the foot treatment. Why is it that we notice a greater wave of movement, like a whip back when we initially lift the toes, and less movement of the sway forward when we drop the toes? So simple. Remember the dome and arch theory, right? That ideally, all of the domes and arches have a central component when we walk where they travel over one another. A lot of us, that's not really true, right? We have a massive forward head carriage. And what happens after you do the foot treatment, if your nervous system is figuring out where your pelvis is in relationship to your ribs and your head, it's going to set you more upright. It's going to bring you back, because chances are your upright posture is a little further behind you, right? It's not here. So when you lift your toes, your brain's going, whoa, put your head back on top of your pelvis as it's relating, now that it knows where it is, the center of your foot. And so it whips you more into an upright posture, which is just probably a little further behind you than most people realize, right? So that's why that happens. And it's a good sign. It's a good sign. It's saying, hey, your nervous system is actually adapting a new connection with the masses over the spaces from that tiny base of support, because you've got more sensory information passing through your legs than you did before. Okay. Elizabeth Dilly, I love this one. She says, I've started working with a one-on-one client with pelvic prolapse. She was a runner, CrossFit trainer, volleyball player before her 2 babies, but she has absolutely no core control even before the babies. She felt like arms and legs with no connection to her center. She and thinks she made her pelvic prolapse worse by jumping back into CrossFit after baby number 1, probably. She says that she's moving extremely slowly, which is great. She's doing feet, hands, rebalance, as well as practicing finding her core in quadruped pose. That's beautiful, Elizabeth. And she says we're focusing on her ability to find her core without tension in her neck, which takes a lot of concentration for her. I've also given her the balls to use on her shins, which seems as they seem to be holding on for dear life. Oh, okay, yes. I know her inner thighs needing attention, but I'm sure she won't have enough control to keep herself from jeopardizing her pelvic alignment. I'm thinking of adding basic skull shear, neck decompress to loosen up her neck. Yes, okay. So listen, when you have a pelvic prolapse, right, the pelvis is a diaphragm. And if the diaphragm has prolapse, it actually weakens the respiratory diaphragm because there's a frequency and a bounce back between these two domes. So a couple of things. In the level 1 training, is it the level 1? I do believe it is. The tuck and tilt challenge with the feet against the wall. You really want to help her nervous system reclaim its connection with her center of gravity by ensuring that she understands tuck and tilt challenge and then core challenge. Now, in the teacher trainings, I'm just going to kind of give you a little example of this, guys. If this is sort of a review, okay? So let me do it this way. So you would have a stationary object like a wall, not a chair, by the way, but you'd put yourself on the roller with your feet up against a wall, and you'd have her do her tucking and her tilting, right? Because we want to make sure that she has connection to her pelvis and can help her nervous system figure out where that is in relationship to the other body parts, okay? So I like the idea of you doing things in quadruped, but I like this better, okay? Then I would have her do things like pressing one thigh into her hand and doing tucking and tilting, and watch if her pelvis goes berserk over that inside bending, right? Because you'll help her nervous system heighten that sensory reception to the pelvic floor. And then you do it on the other side, same thing, tucking and tilting. You're just watching, you're using this sort of as an assessment, right? Tucking and tilting is a kind of an assessment technique to reconnect. And then go into your tucking and tilting. Watch if she uses her quadriceps, make sure her heels stay slack to the butt cheeks. But then you want to get her into doing things like the core challenge. This would be very good for a pelvic prolapse because you're actually helping her to lift the pelvic floor, right? Really thinking about that holding of the pelvis in its position as we go through those moves. So important, okay? The other one, single leg lift, double leg lift could actually be very compelling to her over time. But I also want to go on the other side of the core. Last night we did a core class. Thanks to those of you guys who came. What a trauma that was with the video. I don't know what happened, but it worked. I did knee knockers, and it's a level 4 move, I think, but it's awesome. And that would be my primary one to work with somebody with a pelvic prolapse. Mini bridge, great, but the knee knockers goes a little bit more direct to the rooted core because you're going to activate your adductors. I would 100% put her working with back thigh shear and inner thigh shear and calf gliding shear and shins. I mean, even if she feels weak, if she has a pelvic prolapse, I got news. When you guys put somebody into these kind of positions and you get them to do stuff like this, it's going to help them, especially if you're doing things like this, because I've got to use my core to be able to carry my body weight. So challenging her in those poses. And if you're doing things in quadruped, right, outside of melt, I got something right behind me, but, bird dogs and things like this, make sure that she can do things like this. There's just so many things for pelvic prolapse that you can help to support her. If it gets to the point where it's like a grade 4 prolapse, now they're going to put mesh in her, which is not the worst thing, by the way. I've got piles of women who have had the mesh inserts to no ill effect of their bodies. And in modern times, it's a much better surgery than it was even a decade ago. But knee knockers are like the 101 for pelvic prolapse and a neurostrength move. Second to that, I might take a gamble on clams, but I would really think about mastering knee knockers. I hope that helps you. Oh, here's a really interesting question from Lori Officer. Melt method versus EStim, electrostimulation. She says she's got a new melt Pilates class and a melt in a Pilates studio. And one of the participants has pain in her hand, and she says she has ulnar nerve damage. She's doing PT for it. And last week, Lori did the large softball hand treatment, rebalance, upper body length, some lower body compression, and the neck decompressed. She said she felt great afterwards. And then she went to the chiropractor where she had EStim treatment on her shoulders and her upper traps. And she said normally she likes it very high. And usually, you know, like she said typically, but after a very short time, the contractions usually ease and she feels much better. But last week after melting, the high setting was way too high. The contractions she had felt too much. It never let up during the treatment, and she felt sore afterwards. And here's Lori's yes. And again, I love when you guys answer a question with what you thought. She says, my guess, and I told her it was only a guess, is that melting brought a lot of fluid to the area. And since electricity travels through water, that it may have been what made the normal setting way too much. Also, if she melts before that treatment, she should do it less intensely. And I don't know why she would even need the treatment after melting. Anybody have info on EStim? Okay, so yeah, listen, again, your fascia is comprised of bound water. It is more like a gel-like crystalline matrix. It's not water like what you drink, right? Water that we drink, water from our foods gets ingested, and along with glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans, it kind of like gets swirled up into a more gel-like substance. There is a frequency and a resonance to fascia. It has its own, it is a neuroelectrochemical superconducting transportation highway, okay? So you do EStim on a body that's got a lot of fluid transmission, that is going to transmit very quickly to you. Like I had acupuncture done, and the guy did EStim on me, and you know, he just turned it on. I go, wow, yeah, that's plenty. He's like, it's barely on. I was like, I feel that current running through my whole body, and I know it's because I'm hydrated. And it's the same for this particular client. So here, I think you said it right. Why go to a chiropractor after you melt? Why not do it on a day that you're not going? And maybe you should try melt for a few weeks, and maybe you don't need to see the chiropractor but once a month. Okay. Gally Dean says, on the YouTube video Glow Up, I talk about as we get older, we get more sinus fluid, and it tends to pool in the sinuses. This is an issue that she's noticed in older clients. She's now saying, I'm kind of noticing it in the morning that I have a sniffly nose that clears as the day goes on. I'm just wondering if I could talk about this, what happens besides the face treatment and all these other things that are related to melt that would help. Okay, here's the thing. As we get older, watch an older adult. They breathe more through their mouth. And I think I mentioned James Nestor in an Instructor newsletter. I think it's a great book for older adults to read. I even watch my mom all the time. She sits there like this. She's got her mouth open all the time. If we are breathing through our mouth too much, we alter the sinuses. We literally alter the sinuses in our body. And by the way, we don't just have one sinus, right? We've got the maxillary sinuses located on each side of your nose near your cheekbones, the frontal sinuses up near your eyes. You got your ethmoid located on right up here on the bridge of your nose, way up here, and then the sphenoid sinuses behind the eyes and deeper into your skull, right? So it's kind of like 8 compartments in the face, and fluid flow does adapt. And more than anything, it's inflammation. And as we get older, inflammation is much more prevalent. It really is. We are producing less collagen as we get older. The interstitial fluids are less abundant. That's why your skin dries out. That's why you get all wrinkly, right? So we know that these things are happening. So very simply, shut your mouth, right? Try to breathe through your nose more often. 3D breath breakdown, 3D breaths, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, always wonderful to do. Okay, Camellia Shakti, she says, what is the link between the ribs and the sinuses? She says, it would enhance my experience to know when doing upper back lighting and shearing. She had a big experience, some gentle manipulation in the ribs and in her back, close to the spine. And she says her nose and mid-eyebrow kind of flooded with phlegm. She gets an intense sensation in the middle of her eyebrows, a pulsation for hours after. And she says it's super healing. Okay, well, what very large organ is under your ribs, people? Is your lungs, right? So how do your ribs relate to the sinuses? They kind of don't, but the lungs do. And most importantly, the pleura of the lungs, the upper chamber, this has a significant relationship to our sinus cavity. So it's related to breathing. So, you know, there's a lot of things like inflammatory periosteal reaction that some people have. And Camelia, if you're on the call, you know, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, all of these kind of things have relationships to altercations in sinuses. Like, again, you're not going to see that so much, but as the connective tissue runs into problems, the issue of expansion, the diaphragm contracting appropriately, the lung capacity just changing a little bit can significantly alter sinuses. So if you feel like you do upper back lighting and shearing and you feel really sinus congested, I would think to go to Melt on Demand and look at, and again, it's a kind of a more upper level technique, but you can figure it out, is the sternal release sequence, right? To not only do the upper body, but to work on base of skull shear, sternal decompress, maybe a little side rib glide, right? And not just go against the spine, but really work a little more slowly through the whole torso. And I would also then wonder if after you did that, you did a neck release sequence, and maybe even if I had to give you a map to preface all of it, start at your lower body and work your way up. There's actually a melt map on Melt on Demand, if I'm not mistaken, called From the Bottom Up. And I would find that one and try that one in your practice and then report back to me what changes. Okay, Tina Arankowski says, a chronic pain at the ischiocrural muscle attachment. Some advice for that for personal use, maybe some neurostrength moves. She says she thinks she has to straighten the glutes, right? So just in case ischiocrural isn't familiar to Americans, that's your hamstring attachment. That's your, so the ischial tuberosity here and the ischiocrural is the crura of the attachment of your hamstring. So she's saying she kind of has pain there. And here's my strategy for that. You got to work on your front thigh, gliding and shearing, lengthening techniques. Inner thigh is definitely important. Don't lengthen the backside if you have ischiocrural or muscle hamstring strain at the ischial tuberosity. Do the compression on the back of your thigh, but I would not do lengthening techniques. Instead, I would be doing things of melt. If you wanted some neurostrength moves, mini bridge, knee knockers, inner thigh lift, side hip hero, the hover and lunge. Those would probably be my ones that I would work through. Most often when you have a hamstring strain is because the sacrotuberous ligaments are weak and they're overtaut. And that oftentimes happens from a hip flexor that's not really playing along with the group. So I would also then bet to say, if you slowed down and you worked really slow and paid attention to your core challenge, that your pelvis probably laterally shifts a little bit. And so kind of explore the front thigh gliding and shearing and really work on that more daily. Try to get some more of the hip stability. I think that would definitely help you a lot. I've had that injury many years ago. I did a Pilates session, one session with some lady on this wheelbarrow, and she had me lean forward and she went right behind me and pushed me and just ripped it. And it was just horrible. For months and months and months I dealt with that. But it, you know, it doesn't cause me problems now. But I also was mental over it for 6 months trying to fix it. Okay. Amanda Yu, she says one of her students from the autoimmune group has left shoulder pain and limited range. Hey, by the way, Amanda, a lot of my clients who have left shoulder pain and autoimmune issues, it's a liver thing. It's a liver problem. Just I'm throwing that out to you. She says that she only connects with her once a week in class, and she said to go indirect before direct, so hand and foot rebalance regularly. I mean, again, you guys are great, right? You know how to give them the indirect approach. You're doing it right. Hand and foot rebalance, upper and lower body compression, maybe a neck release. And then she says, do I advise windshield wiper or arm and hammer to stabilize the shoulder girdles? Yes, but I would be looking to rib side bend and then add neurostrength. Get her to do side rib gliding and side rib bending, and see if you can help her to mobilize her own liver a little bit. Maybe that's part also contributing to her autoimmune issues. Our left ligament of the liver really has an inherent relationship with the left shoulder. So I get a lot of women who have left shoulder pain, and I mobilize their liver, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can move again, right? So think out of the box on that. I'm not sure if Amanda is asking this, but can I talk about how often a relatively healthy pain-free person should do neurostrength? Should they do a particular move multiple times a week, or should they try different moves? What would be ideal? Well, first of all, neurostrength, there's a learning curve, guys, learning curve, right? So first I would go to the MELT fundamentals collection, the MELT performance fundamentals, and I would kind of learn the concept of it, because the moves look like exercises that we've all done. So it kind of throws people off a little bit, that it's like your nervous system will just want to do what it's always done. So getting them to really realize that it isn't, that is kind of part of the battle. But then I would say 3 times a week, pick 3 to 4 moves, and out of those 3 to 4 moves, repeat 1 or 2. So if you're doing 4 moves 3 times a week, I would take 2 from the first week and I would add them to the second week, but I would do 2 new ones. And then whatever those 2 new ones are, I'd add that to the next week, and I've picked 2 more. So that you're kind of circulating yourself through the techniques and figuring out which ones really resonate with your body, and then practice those a few more times on their own and really land them, and then go back to the ones that weren't as right on for you and see if you can make more headway with them. But 3 times a week is plenty. Wow, okay, I got a lot more questions here, and I've got 5 more minutes. I'll probably have to answer some of these on the Facebook page, but I'll try to answer a few more. Stephanie Howard says, I have a friend whose daughter was recently diagnosed with Graves' disease. Does anyone have experience with it? I do. This is a longer conversation. It is a dismal, definitely autoimmune related. I would definitely have you watch the hormone balance, because that's can definitely help a bit. But that would let me give you some more insight, and I'll do that on your Facebook page, because I'd rather be more thoughtful. By the way, Carrie, I don't know where it is, but I guarantee that I have at some point talked about Graves' disease in the instructor resources. Maybe we can find that. I don't know. I know that they don't have the link to that, but
I'll look for it.
yeah, I mean, I mean that because I've had so many clients, not so many, I've had probably 10 clients in my lifetime with Graves, but who have been diagnosed with it, but just at different ages. And so it's just really getting a handle on the autoimmune issues. And the younger they are, the easier it is actually to tackle it. Ann Cooper says, I have a question about drawbridge. What happens when we lift the head and turn it? A student asked me that. Okay, so the drawbridge is trying to get into the rooted core, and your rooted core, remember, is under the rib wall, attaches into the deep aspects up into scalenes, comes up under the jaw and into your temple. So if I lift my head and I turn it to the side and I rest it back down, I'm lining up that fascial continuum. Just, I'm being precise, right? Because when I reach, I'm going to get a little long here, and then I want to wrap my ribs back around, but I want to keep the head turned so that I really direct it less to my spiral line in my arm and the functional line, and more to the rooted core. Michelle Kitching says that a question came up from a client about whether he needs the ball between the bunions or not because he feels like he can pull the band further apart if the ball isn't there. He's an overachiever. It's not about the band getting pulled more. It actually is the shape of the foot. When you put the band around it, you put your heels apart and then you open up your feet, you put the ball there, and then you want to close your heels together. And the closing of the heels should pull the knuckles enough so that you still can create extension. You shouldn't have to yank them really far apart. That's really not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to just abduct it a little bit so that when you extend, you get a little bit more of the function of extending the big toe. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, he wants to do everything extra. So thank you.
I feel like all of my male clients do too. Amanda, you says, do I recommend Neurostrength moves for frozen shoulder? Yes, I do. I do. With frozen shoulder, though, you definitely want to do the hydration. And one of the sneaky ones is pec minor. And so getting the chest gliding and shearing is definitely important, doing the whole upper body compression, but also, again, rib gliding and rib side bend. When you have frozen shoulder, go after the rib wall and then the girdle, right? So hydrate the girdle, but work with lengthening the rib wall and try to get the fascial tension under the scapula so that you get a little bit more of the interplay, and then add the Neurostrength. Like side lying arm fan is a great one. And remember, you don't need to go to the pattern. You could just do your reintegration with them. Definitely is very valuable. Side lying backhand, also great. Quadruped arm fan is a great one for frozen shoulder if side lying arm fan is just too impossible. And arm and hammer, also a really great one to see if you can build them up too. Patty Mulville says, I have a 60-year-old male client with 2 hip replacements and a knee replacement. Are there any Neurostrength moves that would be contraindicated? Not really contraindicated, but some of them just might be difficult for a client with all of those replacements to get into. So kind of, deduce it, like which are the ones that I would go after first? Probably core techniques, like neurocore techniques. I would probably do clams and inner thigh lift. I would go to the basics. Like doing something like a hover and lunge, putting his shin down with his knee. Maybe he can't do that position. Just depends upon where his body's at. But really, when you have any joint replacements, all of the techniques that I've shown you guys with Neurostrength could be used. It's just person to person, right? So try, like my favorite ones for people who have, by the way, all of these replacements is side hip hero, monster sidestep as the standing moves. Those would be really great ones to have him try to master. Julie, you want me to talk about piezoelectricity? If you could go to your New Science manual, I actually wrote all about it there. And look, you could also just go to the Google and type in piezoelectricity fascia, and you will find a copious amount of scientific research about what piezoelectricity is. Yeah. Again, fascia acts like a superconductor. I don't know. Okay. What is the purpose of doing the rotation portion of the assisted lunges against the wall? I don't know what rotation portions is. Marissa, will you do me a favor and ask that question with more description, because we're out of time? And I will help you with that. I don't know what you mean. Oh, I do know what you mean. Are you talking about the torso rotation? It's because when we walk, we're a spiral. Our lateral hip and our shoulder are connected. So when you're doing something like side hip hero, if you do the rotations with the torso, it helps that biomechanical effect from your hip to your opposite shoulder. That's in the teacher trainings, by the way. It's in the videos. It's in the videos. Okay, anyway, that was awesome. I think I should win some sort of a gold standard award for answering that many questions in an hour. And it's hot out here. Okay, so thank you guys for those questions. And again, if any other questions kind of strike you, put it over on the Facebook page. I'll give you a little thing on piezoelectricity and the other ones that I didn't get to answer, maybe over the weekend. Again, I'm dealing with my mom this next week, going in for some surgery for her. So Yeah. So thank you guys, as always, for being part of the Mel community, for being just so awesome. Make sure you're sipping water frequently, eat water-filled foods, and I have your attention. Call someone if you would for me, please. Let's all do it together tonight. Call somebody that you love, tell them you love them and why, and put your positive vibes out into the world for me. Elevate the frequency for everybody. You can unmute yourselves. I love you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Sue.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Love you
you.
guys.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Bye. Thank you.